Well, good morning, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well. Welcome to the Business on Purpose podcast. My name is Thomas Joyner, one of the coaches here with BOP. Joining us today, Brent Whitaker. Really excited. Brent has a ton of experience with our topic today. We're going to dive in talking about mission and mission statements. But before I get to that, I figured I would share ours. Obviously, if you have spent any amount of time on the Business on Purpose podcast, you know that we are about liberating business owners from chaos so that you can make time for what matters most. It's simple, it's effective, but it really drives everything that we do here at Business on Purpose. And so we're going to dive in on that today. And Brent, why don't you kick us off? As we're starting off this conversation, what comes to mind when you think about mission and mission statements, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question, Thomas. What comes to mind first for me is purpose and how those are interchangeable. Purpose and mission. What gets us out of bed in the morning? What's our purpose? What gets us at BOP out of bed in the morning? So purpose comes to mind when I hear mission. And so I think today when we're talking through that, when we hear purpose, we can think mission. When we hear mission, we can think purpose. And it's inherently missional. Purpose is inherently missional. It propels us, like I said, out of bed in the morning. I've also heard it said that purpose is not the thing that you do, but what happens in others when you do what you do.
Yeah.
So in essence, for our clients, what happens when we live on mission, when we live out our mission, is liberation for our clients. So they have time for what matters most. So hope that makes sense.
That's really good. I think we get a lot of times that, well, what's the difference in mission and vision and all that stuff, right? And I think when we come back to the core of it, it's all right. If vision is where you're headed, right, and your core values are kind of how you get there, and then mission becomes like, all right, why are we going there in the first place, right? Like if we're painting this picture of everywhere that we want to go, why do we even want to go there? And I think it's worth answering,
No, for sure. I think we're designed to have mission, to have purpose. Thomas, give me an example. Like, how does mission guide your business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think where I've seen it the most, right? When people are really guided by mission, it makes the hard days somewhat easier because they're sitting there and they're like, all right, I know what I'm about, right? I'm not just what I do day to day, but there's a purpose, there's a why, there's something greater underneath it. That's really pushing that and moving that forward. Quick example there. I was working with a local plumbing company and they do plumbing installs. And so they had some guys that were just frustrated. It was just hot outside and they're sitting in this concrete bathroom in a new park that was being built in our town. And their guys are like, man, we're just frustrated. Like we're just plumbing toilets and adding drain lines. And they got to come back to their mission, which was completely different from what their guys had understood. Right. And they got to explain that, all right, we're not just plumbing toilets. We're not just running drain lines and getting sewer tapped in and whatnot. Right. But we're doing so much more than that. Think about like the single mom who just wants to bring her kids to a park and not have to worry about what happens if my kid has an accident. No, we're actually facilitating family experiences together, or if they're doing it in somebody's house, like we're not just installing toilets. No, like we are creating a home space, a home environment for people. And that why and that purpose is so much bigger than the what that they're doing in the day to day. You know what I mean there?
No, that's great. So it makes me think, hey, we've got to keep asking why we do what we do several times until we get to that core motivating factor that propels us out of, when things get tough, right? They get us out of bed in the morning. So I think one thing I hear from that example is, hey, folks, when you own a business, keep asking why you do what you do until you get to something that really sticks and really motivates.
Yeah. So I'm curious your take on this, Brent. Something we see a lot is mixing up like passion and purpose, right? Because they're actually different, even though a lot of people may put them together. Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's great. They're both awesome and they both have their place. We just need to understand their differences and why that matters. So, passion, if I could condense it, is really more of an emotion. I mean, if you look at the definition, it's a strong, extravagant fondness, it's enthusiasm or desire for something, right? Let's just use a common day example. If you don't know this about me, I am passionate about cold water therapy. I know you're going to laugh at that one. If you don't know, now you know. I love sitting in cold water, and I won't go into the science, but that's a passion. 6 months from now, I may not care one thing about getting in cold water, but my mission and my purpose is I want my health span to equal my lifespan. So, in with that mission in mind, one thing that helps move the needle forward for my purpose in the health silo is getting in cold water therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Next month, it might be sauna or running 3 miles, but passion is more emotion, where purpose is more missional. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I hope that makes sense on the two. If you look back in your own life, Thomas, you could probably write down things that you were passionate about that you aren't anymore. I mean, things change. You have kids, so passions can change. Purpose remains the same.
Yeah. I like that in that I feel like passion should be allowed to change too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, like if your why stays the same, like you can work that why a hundred different ways throughout your life. And I think if you're grounded to that mission, then it's good for your passions to be able to change because it allows you to experience different things. It allows you to move into different pockets and honestly experience more of life that way. But you're also
100%.
accomplishing your why along the way with that. You know?
No, 100%. So I think one thing is like maybe you should become passionate about cold water therapy, but we can talk about that later. Hey, more importantly, and we've kind of touched on this, but what happens when you lack
Yeah.
mission or purpose?
Oh man.
Speak to
Um,
that.
I feel like you see what has been happening, honestly, around the work environment. Like since COVID hit, there's been this great resignation, right? It's kind of this term that's come out of, 8 million people alone in 2020 like left or changed their jobs, which is crazy.
It's
I would
crazy.
wager to say that a lot of that was because they didn't know their why. And so
Mm.
they were just going to work, doing what they were being asked to do. And people want more than that in their work. And so I think if we're not willing to do the hard work to discover what that mission and purpose is,
Mm.
to kind of speak it into existence, to name it, we become really, really reactive, right? Which is like, hey, whatever's in front of me at the moment is gonna drive my life. You know what I mean? If I need money, great. We got to go to sales and we just got to hammer that. If if stuff's tough in my marriage or with my kids or I don't know, like just in with our culture, all of that makes us reactive and drives it versus having something that we're rooted to that's propelling us and driving us forward into all that. Does that make sense there, what I'm saying?
No, 100%. Like there's so many voices screaming for our attention. If we don't define our mission, then we just gravitate to what's the loudest voice. And that can be quite chaotic.
Yeah. Another thing I think I've seen is boredom that comes in. And I didn't
100%.
mention this, but it's like I'll sit with business owners who, they started a business because they saw a hole in the market, and it was like, great, I needed to be a builder, roof houses or sell mortgages or whatever. And they saw that gap. And it was never really something that was attached to like a primary need. And so they do it. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Like at some point, work is work. You got to do it to support your family. And so, but I think when you can go a step further and you can say, all right, what is the work behind the work? What's that fundamental work that I'm trying to accomplish through my technical skill, through my day to day? Like that is something that gets you excited. I'll never forget. I remember working in New York City my after my junior year of college, and I remember sitting there thinking like, I can sit in my bed for 5 more minutes and still get to work on time. And I was just bored. I was miserable because all I was doing was going in and like running spreadsheets for this marketing firm. And so, had we actually come up with the why behind it, I think I would have been way more excited to be like, great, let me get out of bed, let me go. And speaking back to your example of the cold tub, like helps me push through the hard of getting my feet on the floor and going to work because the why is so powerful.
Yeah, it sounds like a much fuller life
Yeah.
if we define that. I think that's
Yeah.
fair to say.
100%. And I think at the end of the day, like that's what we want, right? Is a full life, is a whole life, and something that we're really excited about. So, all right, we are running up against the clock here, real quick. Brent, give me, if you were to boil down just your thoughts on mission to kind of 3 points, maybe three quick little bullet points. What do you not want people who are listening today to miss when it comes to mission and purpose and mission statements in general?
Well, I have so many why three, but I think what we just said, hey, do you want a fuller life? That can sound hokey, but it's not. Do you want a fuller life? And that's why a mission statement, what purpose comes into play, because it encapsulates that why that we need to peel back and discover, and essentially what propels us out of bed. Hey, Thomas Joyner, if you had a powerful why in New York, you would have been propelled out of bed as opposed to staring at your phone saying, well, how long can I lay here? Right.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, life and work, they necessarily intersect. You'll hear us say that all the time. And without purpose, we said it, life is bland. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know anybody that signs up for a bland life. If you do, power to you. But most people want fullness. The other thing I think we've kind of hinted on is if you do not define your mission and your purpose, others will.
Yeah.
Others will. And do you want that? So,
Hmm.
do you want your clients to define your mission? Because they will. Do you want your friend group or your family to define your mission and your purpose? They gladly will.
Hmm.
So, I think if I had to sum it up, that would be my summation that I wouldn't want folks to miss.
Man, that's really good. That's really, really, really
Yeah, and
good.
I would say, well, I'm gonna turn it back on you. Let's give me three reasons
Yeah.
why mission is so important and what you want folks to hear as we close out.
Yeah. I think the three things I would probably point to, one would be like, do you know the work behind your work? Like if somebody asked you, like people ask us all the time, what do you do? And our answer is, well, we liberate business owners from chaos. Brent, I heard you say that to somebody the other day. And they always kind of like turn their head and look at you like, what the heck does that even
You're
mean?
cheesy, buddy.
Yeah. And yet, like, yes, that is what we do. That's the work behind the work.
For
And
sure.
so I think if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, right? Like the what you do can change because it's trying to accomplish the why. And so for us, like maybe down the road, if liberating business owners from chaos, like maybe that looks like us going into to bookkeeping and accounting because that's an area of chaos that our clients need us to help them with. Maybe that means we help with marketing or sales, or maybe we just take them to lunch and actually have a conversation about what's going on at home. Because if eliminating and liberating clients from chaos is the mission, that can look 100 different ways. And so that'd be the
So
first
true.
thing is know that work behind the work. Second thing would be if you don't know why you're doing something, when things get hard, you may give up if it's not tied to a powerful why, right? I know there's 1,000 things I've tried in my life. And if I don't know really why I'm there, right? Like you see people who have I don't know, New Year's resolutions every year and they give up
Two
because they
weeks.
don't know really why they're trying to do it in the first place, or it's not tied to a powerful enough why. And so
Sure.
if we can do the deep work to actually dive in and say, no, 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 at the root of it all, here's the why behind it, and build a 10 to 12 word mission statement that's concise, that you can rattle off quickly, get it tattooed on your bicep, right? Like all the cool kids. No, but in all seriousness, having a short, concise thing can help you push through some of the days when you're like, man, it's just hard.
Yeah, I love it.
Um, Third thing I would say is when you know your why and you're good at communicating that with your team wants to stick around for a lot longer because they want to be attached to that why. It gives them something to hold them to the business above just the technical work. Because I hope this isn't offensive to anybody. There's a lot of people who do what you do, who do the what of what you do, right? But there's not a lot of people who do it for the same reasons and do it for the same mission. And so I think if you can give your team something that sticks them to your business for the long term, those moments it's hard, those moments where there's little bits of gray area, there's miscommunication, there's hard conversations, like they want to be a part of a why. And so, man, those would be the three things I would hit on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And well, as we wrap it up, tell folks where they can go to check more out at Business on Purpose.
Absolutely. So thank you guys again for joining in. We're trying to hit on more of these long form conversational podcasts now. And so we're going to keep just talking about business, how to run the back end of your business, how to grow your team, how to be a better leader, all of that stuff. And so if you want to head on over to mybusinessonpurpose.com, you can check out everything that we've got there. There is an awesome page if you're wondering what tools we use for some of this and really what writing your own mission statement looks like. You can actually go to mybusinessonpurpose.com /interactive. So you can check that out. You can check out all the tools that we've got there and then subscribe to our podcast. We got stuff coming out multiple times a week. It's great for your drive to and from work. Send it around. We would love for you to jump on that and pass that around. So Brent, thanks for joining, man. This has been super encouraging for me, and we will see you guys soon.